with that program and cost increases or revenues decrease, I want to keep that program going. I don't want to have to cut it because we spent too much on lights or whatnot. And secondly, it's my expectation that there's some kind of thought that goes into this number of 150,000, that there is planning done, and that if we're doing the engineering, it's my expectation that we're engineering for the right amount to cover what we need to cover. So I'm going to ask Mr. Murmas, our engineering plans, do they cover up to Montrose, and do we expect it to cost $150,000?
Just talking with Mr. Graff right now, it'll be close. It could go to Montrose. It'll be the 150 numbers will be pretty close to go to Montrose, so it could work.
Then let's leave it alone. I mean, that's our plan. Let's pay for the plan, and then we can project the next section of town. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Coles.
All right, as the builders started up, we had the bank, commercial bank, put in lights along Irvin Park. On Potter, there's new lights on Potter by the project, the housing project, which is going over there. They're on, and so every time we have a new project put in or something's designed, we insist on having them lights put in. So, I mean, we don't have to do them all ourselves. We have outsiders helping us put the lights up, especially on Irvin Park.
Okay. So, my conclude that we getting out of here. Who's in favor of moving $40,000 back into streetlights? I'm sorry, 35,000. Add to streetlights. Who's in favor of those?
I think the discussion was centering around taking 35,000 out of the streetscape.
And moving it to streetlights.
Well, I didn't hear that. I thought.
Well, that's if we need.
I heard two alternatives out there.
I did too.
35,000 and reallocate it to streetlights, and the other was take 35,000 out of streetscape and just put it in the fund balance.
All right. Who's in favor of taking 35,000 out of streetscapes and put it in the balance? Put it in the balance of the staying in this account. Is everyone in favor? Yes. So we'll take
So we're going to reduce the 85,000 in streetscape to 50,000.
50,000 and putting it in
and
the
we'll
balance.
we won't reallocate that
Nope.
money. That'll add 35,000 to the fund balance.
Yes.
And I got a majority show of hands.
Yes. Okay. Anything else on Mr. Nuzio?
I just want to talk on the dial ride. I mean, when we first came on board, it was 40,000. Now I'm looking at 52,000. I mean, isn't there something we can do to control this? I mean, if it's going up at 6,000 and 10,000 a year,
The dial ride contract, the dial ride employees are under the union contract, so it's the same as any other union employee. They're contractually obligated to pay them that amount.
Are you done?
yeah.
Can I do a follow-up with that? With the union personnel, could we use those union personnel somewhere else and then and hire a part-timer for that in our city? It's the 150, right? So could we not? How many drivers does this cover? Is it 3?
Is this, before we go too further, is this an appropriate discussion?
Well,
Perhaps this could be done at a future date in executive session? Because I think it is an existing union position.
It is an existing union position, and I would suspect that if we wanted to change it and reallocate them somewhere else, we might have to bargain with.
all right,
the
you know what?
union.
Then we'll just leave it.
I'd suggest
as
we
is
leave it
until
as is, and if
after.
you want to make it,
That's fine.
have a discussion, we can do that at a later date.
That's fine. Christine Winger?
Are we going to have the discussion before or after we pass the budget?
No,
I
we,
recommend you pass the budget and we can have
well,
it.
we can make the adjustment on the
Just
budget.
because you pass a budget doesn't mean you're obligated to spend the money.
Right.
You can always change your mind down the line.
But I understand that and I agree to it, but let's not lose sight of the discussion because I think when we started this was a part-time position. And now all of a sudden it's a union
We could-
position. And I lost track of that somewhere along the way.
But you know what, the mayor is right, and the city manager, it's, we will revisit that, but we'll leave it right in the budget. Anything else on tourism? Mr. Mayor?
I have a question, just curiosity, who this is going to. The administrative salary, at one time, I think Mimi was partially funded out of this. Who now is on staff getting this, and what percentage of their job is considered?
Mimi's still covered in there, percentage of her salary, as well as Amanda, a small percentage of her salary is in there as well.
So each of them, a portion of their job is then tourism and special events.
It's 8% of Amanda's and a quarter of Mimi's, and they both still work on special events or tourism.
Is there any other discussion on tourism fund? Okay, I guess we can wrap up tourism fund. Okay. What's the next one, Jeff, you want to go to?
Want to go to the general fund?
That's fine.
Yeah, but yeah.
Let's go general fund.
Administration is the first department in the general fund.
Hang on 1 minute. Are we talking expenditure or revenue?
The revenue is all out of the general fund. These are just expenditures.
Okay.
This is up about $80,000 over last year.
Wait, let me make sure everyone's,
Everybody on admin?
is everyone on general fund? Okay. Go ahead.
On the admin tab, this is the department that handles Jeff. Part of Mimi, the Human Resources Administrator, and myself. The main reason it's up over last year was that we've reallocated the Human Resources Administrator. Previously, she was funded 75% in this budget and 25% in finance. And for simplicity's sake, we just want to move her all into administration. And then there are additional costs that weren't incurred in the past because of the contribution to deferred comp for me and an auto allowance instead of a car. And if there are any questions on the line items, we'd be glad to answer them.
Okay. Any? Yeah, we're going to administrative funds. Do the first tab, which is administrative. Okay. Is there any questions? Christine Winger.
Not on the administrative, but once we're done with that fund, I'd like to go to the very front and look at the supplementary information. It's a tab or two before this one.
Okay. Administrative fund. Any concern? Mr. Cadell.
What is the bike trail account, and are we expecting to ever spend money there again? Second page of the spreadsheet, account ending 46096.
I'm going to answer this with a yes and a no. The bike trail, this was the old bike trail project, and Dave, you can help me out on this with the directions that was going through the town from the the south part of town to the north part of town. Do we ever plan to spend any more money out of this particular line for it? No. However, a couple weeks ago, we did get the final bill from IDOT for that. So on this next list of bills you'll be getting into your packet tomorrow, there will be a final payout for this bike trail. So starting next year, no, but you will see a final payment on that in the packet tomorrow. But it's coming out of the capital projects fund, not the general fund. So as of the beginning of May 1, no.
Mr. Nuzio.
Well, I got a simple question. I know we're on administration, so as far as any new hirings for administration or administrative assistants or anything like that, is there anything coming up?
No.
No.
Any positions that are vacant that you're planning on filling? Because last year, when we got the budget, everybody said, no, there's no new positions. Nobody failed to mention that we had 5 open slots that we're filling. So now I'm going to ask every department head, I want to know exactly what's what.
There soon will be a vacancy in the police department because we have found out that one of our police officers is about to apply for a duty disability pension. It's the chief's intent, however, to apply for a federal grant to fill that job for 3 years and take it off the books for a period of 3 years. Other than that, I don't think there are any vacancies in the city.
Mr. Nuzio.
Because I went on the website over the weekend and I saw 4 positions that we're taking applications for. One's an intern that was explained to me in the finance department. I think there's some kind of supervisor going on maintenance.
We're still advertising for a street supervisor in Public Works. We're still in the process of interviewing for a lab technician.
Right.
And after those are filled, do you have any other vacancies? Then we'll be at full staffing.
Go ahead.
As far as the supervisor position, when we hire a supervisor, is he a working supervisor or he's just a guy who's figurehead, do this, do that?
He's a working supervisor.
Because I really don't like those guys that just, I like guys that actually get their hands dirty.
No, John will supervise 4 of the supervisors, and they in turn will be working supervisors out with their crews.
The 4 current supervisors the 3 current supervisors we have now, wastewater, utilities, and plant maintenance, are 3 supervisors that can work in the field in the sense of they can supervise crews on a day-to-day basis, they can plan, direct, they can purchase materials, they cannot do collective bargaining unit work, meaning they cannot. Plant maintenance mechanic is out fixing a pump. If there is another pump that needs to be fixed, he cannot technically grab a wrench and repair that pump.
Can I go?
Go ahead.
In that case, instead of hiring this so-called supervisor, can't we have one of maybe the senior guy be like the crew chief and he can still work and hire just a regular laborer?
That's what we've got right now on the street side, is we've got a maintenance operator who is functioning as a crew leader. The concern we've got about that is that he's still a union employee, and that leads to some problematic issues with respect to potential discipline. It's been my experience that if you've got somebody that's in a, quote, supervisory capacity over other people and they're both in the same union, that can be problematic in terms of not wanting to get on the bad side of other union employees. And if I were going to set up a department from scratch, the supervisors would not be in the labor union. As a matter of fact, we talked about this back in October, November, when I proposed a reorganization. We got rid of I'm going to call him Gary Holm, got rid of that position, said Mr. Kramer's going to handle the public works side of central services, and we want to backfill with a street supervisor so we can get a non-union supervisor supervising the street employees. And that would still be my recommendation.
Okay. Hey, Mr. Knight?
Yeah, 42034, professional services. How did we go from a spike of 11,200 to $500 for minute taking in public, for public hearings?
Oh, the 11,000. What line item was it again? Okay.
Professional services,
The
42034.
that wasn't for minute taking. That was likely for some other contract. It could have been a initial TIF study. I'd have to go back and look at the actual budget, but it wouldn't be for minute taking.
Per the line item description in last year's budget, that spike was due to land appraisals, particularly the ones on Commercial Street and possibly Irving Park.
Oh, okay. But $500 is enough to cover the minutes taken, like at the public hearings and that?
Yeah, we typically only have a couple of those a year, and those are relatively brief.
What, do we pay the minute taker who does the zoning board and that, out of that, or what?
That's out of a separate account, like from Eileen's minute taking or Marilyn's minute taking at ZBA, different account than the court reporter minute taking for public hearings.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Okay, so we'll go to the city clerk then.
Wait, that's a different one. I wanted to go frontward.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Christine, where did you want to go again? I saw.
Sure. So the very first tab, supplementary information.
Okay.
And regarding building permits, so the last four digits, 34010. Why do we anticipate we're going to bring in 50,000 more in this economy? I know things could change somewhat, but I don't think we're going to have a large spike between this summer and next.
That was our best guesstimate at the time we put it together. We thought that, the economy would start to come around by the end of next year. And, as you see, we budgeted this year 486,000 and we're projecting 200. And our best guess, and that's all it is a best guess, is we think the economy going to start turning itself around middle of this fiscal year, and we'll see some more activity. But that's just a guesstimate.
Were we ever as low as 200,000 that you know of in the past?
No.
Not from the historical stuff I've seen. I mean, it's at it. I mean, I was at a meeting with the mayor today, and he was mentioning that we had one commercial development that's underway. We've got a potential for another commercial development up at Devon and Wooddale that Ross Clicker's been working on, but we've got no residential to speak of. And it's pretty much dead in the water.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I was listening to the radio today, and we've heard that interest rates are at their lowest point since 1971. And, if you get a fixed rate mortgage at less than 4.8%, that may be spurring some people to go out there and build something.
And then for the other two buildings that would have gone, I guess the Wooddale Station, we have not issued permits for those, correct? Or have we?
No.
No, we have not.
Okay, so if they decide to build another one of those, then that could help this bucket as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Another question, vending licenses. We're showing that we're projecting 12,000 this year instead of 28. Why the huge drop?
The main part of that is if you last time I talked to Deputy Clerk Malone, she said the net effect of loss of businesses in town during the business license renewal season was between 30 and 50. Each one of those were larger businesses that had multiple vending machines. So, and since it's a per machine revenue, if the businesses aren't there, the vending machines aren't there, and we can't charge them on something that doesn't exist. So it's just purely the fact that the businesses that are going out, unfortunately, have the vending machines that we can charge them for. So it's just fewer vending machines based upon fewer businesses in town.
And how does she know they went out of business?
Either their business license renewal came back unforwardable. She called them and they told her that they went out of business. They moved out of town, or they just didn't renew their license. And code enforcement went and did a physical inspection of the building, and there's nobody there or a for rent sign in the building. There's probably 4 or 5 different ways that we ascertain whether or not a business is still in business or if they've closed up shop.
Will you check on it though, because it's prompting me to look at the business licenses line item, and that looks like it went up from what we budgeted instead of down.
Slightly so, and like I said, the net effect was about 30, so between 30 and 50. So I say net effect because there were more than that closed, but then there were also some new ones that came into town and had to buy business licenses for the first time.
Okay.
So it's a teeter-totter as far as that goes. But I will certainly check with her again and confirm that business license number with her again
Okay.
tomorrow before we meet again, sure.
Okay, thank you.
But keep in mind, not every business has vendor machines in their business,
Right.
okay? I'm just saying that.
But the two numbers contradict each other, so.
They do.
So there's something that,
Okay.
makes me question
We'll
it.
check into that, no problem.
And
Anything else?
yes, lastly, the court fines on the next page, 36010. And we're talking about traffic fines collected from circuit clerk. Now, I know our mayor mentioned that the municipals aren't going to get the same share that we used to. And is this where that line item should be affected?
That's part of the reason that we dropped that down to 600,000, because the projected is at 630. And the chief is still working with the courts to try to get a resolution to that. And because we want to be a little on the conservative side, we didn't want to budget the full 630 or 650. We dropped it down to 600,000.
Yeah, well, in years past, according to this budget, we were 400,000 budgeted, then year before that, 419 actual, 458. So 600 seems off from where we were previously, and now we're hearing that the municipalities aren't getting their share, so I would think that we'd be closer to 450.
Wally, could Frank answer that question with the because I know he called me.
Alderman
with this
Winger,
too.
there's 3 things I think that have to be accounted for this blip for this year. Number one, the DuPage County Transportation Department installed a weight limit on Thorndale Avenue for a bridge up there. We've been particularly active on there in conjunction with the Illinois State Police for overweight enforcement. I believe that specifically our truck enforcement officer, net his effort is probably, that's about 150,000, almost 175,000 just for that. Also, TraxGuard has been up for the entire year this year. We have had a few more citations that have been issued over there. So that's obviously another point that's going to be contributing to that initial increase. And lastly, we'll be coming before committee probably in April. We're drafting a ordinance for a minimum fine to help mitigate the situation that's been going on in traffic court. We'll actually be looking for a $125 minimum fine with regards to traffic offenses that occur. We'll also be looking to set a minimum fine standard that reflects what the state's doing, which the judges will be obliged to follow. And then also we're going to be looking at our DUI enforcement effort and collecting what we feel is due to us to help offset our enforcement action on that. So With regards to the traffic court situation, we're approaching that with potential legislation. There's been several things that have occurred in the community which have caused us to focus our enforcement effort with regards to that, and that's attributing for that blip right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Johnson?
I guess the first question I have is actually to you, Chairman. We had a discussion on the revenue side, fire protection, the dispatch, and I think you had mentioned to me that they have made the decision they're moving it to Bloomingdale? Or is
Well,
that something still being discussed?
That is still being discussed, and we will not know that until next month, so we will revisit that.
So we'll know it prior to enacting the budget?
We hope to. They have directions from the chief. We need to know. So they did table it, and they did, when I got proposal for something else, and I have talked to the chief and Wally about this situation. This could change if they decide to pull out. But until then, we have to leave it in place until they make the final decision. We hope they're going to make the decision as soon as possible.
And then two line items above that, the telecommunications tax. I know several of the managers are talking about with the move to voice over internet, which I know I'm considering doing. A lot of businesses and residents are doing. Comcast is promoting it very heavily right now, that we're going to have a decline in the telecommunications tax. And then voice over internet is not taxable. Are you seeing that, or are you projecting for that?
So far, we have not seen it trend that way. That's not to say that it won't, but we haven't seen a significant decline in the monthly revenues that are coming through so far from the state. And so far as projecting for that, I would say that we are increasing the number, just assuming that a constant pace over the last few years remains that same constant pace.
That may be something you have to watch closely.
Of course.
Anything else on it? Christine Winger?
I heard our tax revenue last month. Thank you. I switched.
Okay. Well, we'll watch it very closely then. Anything else on that? Then could we go to the city clerk? I have to hand to this budget. This is the first time I have ever seen narrated being done in every department. Even though I disagree on some of them,
Do you like that?
I really do like the format of this budget so far.
Thank you.
So we will go to the city clerk's office. The only thing that I seen that was added in here was a part-time,
We're asking for $8,000 over and above the target level,
Right.
which is down a little bit. We're asking for an additional $8,000 in what we hope is a one-time expenditure to cover maternity leave for the deputy city clerk. $20 an hour for 10 weeks. And that's the only thing other than the target level that's reflected in this budget.
are we hiring a firm, going outsourced? I mean, are we looking for a firm, or are we going to an employment agency, or are we going to try do this advertising?
We're going to try and do it initially through advertising. If that doesn't work, we'll just go to a temp agency and pull somebody in.
But do you think $20 an hour is a little steep?
Yeah, but I want to err on the side of caution as opposed to under budgeting.
All right, so what I'm trying to say here is, you're going to make the decision if you hire in, if you go outside. You aren't looking at hiring a person for $20.
We're going to try and hire them for as little as we can get
Okay,
them.
thank you. Mr. Nuzio?
Wally, I think I talked to you about this just a little bit. I mean, there's nobody that's working in City Hall that can kind of fill in here in any department we have.
The only clerical people we have on this side of the building, leaving aside police, are one clerical person in finance, one clerical person in community development, both of whom are up to their gills in work, and both of whom, probably most important, are union employees. And I've got a real problem with pulling a union employee in to staff the city clerk's office with the confidential information that's up there. FOI requests, a lot of things that need to be, that are sensitive and need to be kept confidential. We talked about this, and I think Mr. Forrest can speak to his employee, Mr. Wilson can speak to his, but, you know, that's all we've got.
But
You just mentioned the police department. I don't know if that can be done. Like, I know they got people in recording and stuff. Can
All
we pull
union.
somebody out of the police department?
They're all,
That's,
Union.
with the exception of Ms. Schultz, who's the chief's executive assistant, all of the other ones in the
Sorry.
radio room are union employees as well.
Okay.
I mean, we've only got 25 non-union people at the city.
right.
Just,
So I have no problem doing that for 10 weeks. Does anyone have any other questions on that? Okay, we'll move on to community development.
As he's coming up, just the quick overview, the target level is down about $10,000 from last year. That's predominantly due to Mr. Noak's resignation, and we haven't had any plans so far to fill that job. It'll go down even further next year because we expect to finish out the consulting study for the Thorndale project, which is in here. And
I'm taking it.
you will see on the second page where we've recommended $100,000 for the downtown plan, which we hope again is a one-time hit. And then John has asked on the pink sheet for 2 new fleet vehicles, which I've not recommended.
Okay. Mr. Cadala.
Jumping into the objectives of the upcoming year, there's a line in here. It says, due to the downturn in construction permit activity, refocus staff assignments to pending issues and increased property maintenance enforcement. Because it is an objective and because it appears that staff may have time to hit this hard, I hope this council is committed to backing that staff. I still drive around and I see things that don't look right and I wonder why. And I don't know that it's entirely staff's fault. And I also know that we've been talking about a commercial and recreational vehicle ordinance since last year that hasn't come back to us for final approval. So I think it's a great thing to put in there. I hope it can really happen, but you know, if we're not gonna 100% back staff on what their goals are, they may need to readjust their goals.
Okay, but let me turn on that narrator. I'm still waiting for land vision. That's been ongoing for almost a year. Okay, so that needs to be accomplished too this year. All right, well, obviously you put in for two new vehicles, Mr. Luton.
City Manager Daltwhite, what are your objections to the 2 new vehicles?
Affordability. Not that I was trying to put together a budget that would minimize the deficit. I didn't want to give you all a budget that was 300,000 or 400,000 out of whack. Even though our fund balance is healthy, I've got this genetic aversion to giving you a budget that's way out of whack. And it was one of those situations that said, this is nice to have. If you look at the breakout, we can see a reduction in maintenance costs and fuel usage if we buy these, but it was $18,000 that I felt I couldn't feel comfortable approving because of the way the finances looked. Could we use it? Absolutely. Do we need to? Yeah, because when these guys get their cars from the police department after they've outlived their useful life as squad cars, you know, they typically have 90,000 miles on them. And could you make a justification for this? No question about it. It was just a function of affordability at the end of the day. If you wanted to add it, I'll just make a note. We're going to reduce that fund balance by another $18,000.
Who drives the vehicles? And question I have, why aren't we trying to be more green and get a hybrid car?
The two vehicles that would be replaced would be the one that is driven by our senior building inspector, John Philander, and the other one would be driven by myself. When I was pricing these vehicles, I tried to find a vehicle that would still have some utility size-wise and not be a little mini compact car, yet at the same time try and get the best gas mileage we could get. If we wanted to go with a hybrid vehicle, that would add about $10,000 to the cost of each one. Whereas these two vehicles that were chosen, and I did some research on them, I anticipate that these vehicles will use a minimum of 40% less fuel than the vehicles we're using now.
No more questions.
Mr. Kadala?
The hybrid idea sounds good, but maybe Alderman Coles can speak to this better. I mean, isn't there still a issue with being green with the disposal of the batteries when the lifespan of the vehicle is up?
Oh, I'm not a mechanic.
Well,
Mr. Coles?
As far as I'm concerned, they haven't produced a battery yet that's going to last 10 years. They claim the batteries that are in the car are going to last 10 years, but I don't believe they come up with something. Interstate is working on a battery that will probably last that, but the ones that's coming from Japan, they've been fighting. They haven't been last, and if they're very expensive when you go to replace them. You're talking in the neighborhood probably around $1,000 to replace all the batteries that are in them. So why don't, he's got the right idea by taking a Ford product or a Chevrolet and with the two biofuels on it, and they're giving pretty good gas mileage now. I believe he was going the right way. They're awful hard to service. And another thing, you can get zapped if you don't shut off the main switch, because you have 440 volts in them, and you got a lot of amperage behind them. They can knock you down. They tell you to make sure when you're doing any service work on them, including oil changes, you shut off. You have a main switch in them, and you shut it off and make sure it's off, because you can get zapped from it. So personally, I've never worked on one, and I looked at one when they first came out, and I have decided that that's not for me. You can get mileage out of the cars by doing lightening the cars, by changing things over, changing the camshafts, changing everything. You can get mileage out of a car. So, as far as I'm concerned, I personally would not buy one. That's my opinion.
Christine Winger?
Thank you. Mr. Forrest, I like how you laid out the potential savings of bringing it. If we bring in the two new vehicles, we're actually going to save some money over time. And so we net a cost of $18,700. So it does sound like a useful purchase. However, my request though, so I'm not totally against it, but I know that we had a project to look at how many vehicles the city has and who's assigned to them and what years they are. I haven't seen the report. I'm not sure if it's complete or not, but until I see that report, and maybe it's out there, but I just haven't seen it yet. So until I see that report, I'm not in a position to approve any new vehicles. Thank you.
It's my understanding in the 8 months I've been here that there was some controversy about two employees who had take-home cars and a discussion as to whether those were warranted. We've actually three, the former community development director, which is no longer an issue. We've addressed that already and informed those two employees that they can use those cars on duty, but they won't have them for personal take-home use anymore. If they're called out on a weekend or after dark, they drive their own personal car in and they can apply for a mileage reimbursement. But we've already put that to bed. The people who have take-home cars now are the police chief, the deputy chief, the public works director, obviously the K-9 officer, and Mr. Forrest, and I think that's it. And I'm the assistant manager.
I'd like to know how many cars we have in the years of each, and if it's easy to throw in the mileage, fine. But I want to know how many cars we have and who's assigned to them.
We can do that in a period of a day or two.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, line items 42017 and 44017. Vehicle maintenance, outsourcing, and in-house. Here again, there's a spike of almost 100% on the cost. Now, would this be cost to the vehicles we're talking about, that these squad cars we'd be getting from in your department? Or, because here you almost got like $15,000, and that could almost justify getting your two new vehicles.
I had conversations with the mechanics and the supervisor of the Public Works Garage about the vehicles that are